So in 2022, fantasy actually was 35% of the sales of all children's books. Welcome back to my channel. It has been a while. I'm Deborah Pettit, and today we're going to talk about light fantasy versus dark fantasy and why I'm an advocate for light fantasy, fantasy like C.S. Lewis, Tolkien, and why I think that there are a few red flags when we talk about dark or grim fantasy. First, fantasy, the fantasy genre itself is on the rise. It's incredible in the last few years how much people have really wanted to read fantasy, any kind of fantasy at all. Now, dark fantasy is questionable morals, anti-heroes, apocalyptic kind of community. A lot of times it's gritty. I read the statistic. It's actually just about 5% of all fantasy is in the genre of dark fantasy. So when I say dark fantasy, there's this specific subgenre or subcategory for fantasy that's gritty and dark, and the morals are gray and that kind of stuff. However, I do see a darker fantasy when it comes to kids' books. These middle grade books are often the protagonist. You're like, yeah, they're an anti-hero. You're not quite sure if they're a hero. They do, bad stuff for good reasons and that kind of thing. I do feel like there are weaknesses in that. The kids often will learn very quickly from those kinds of, any kind of character really, but those kinds of characters especially, they're learning from, and they soak in the wishy-washy morals. A lot of parents are concerned about their children getting negative themes from the darker, grim type of fantasy stories that you are seeing in kids' books as well. A lot of these negative topics, or even just negative things that are produced when children read darker stories. I am seeing mental health issues. So we've got mental health problems of depression and loneliness and just an overall negative outlook on life. And this is very easy to trace to what we're inputting into children's minds. So social media, is it all negative that they're getting from social media? What are they really getting from the books that they read? Maybe they are getting more and more negative ideas and melancholy feelings from all of their characters. And because they're inputting so much of that, the output is negative, right? So a lot of these kids have depression. Depression is still at a high. So it's these darker fantasy books, again, not dark fantasy, but darker, more grim fantasy books that middle schoolers are reading. They are producing a lot of negative things in children. So why I believe it's so important for us to have light fantasy light fantasy, stories that have really good morals, heroes that you can actually copy, you can emulate them. My books teach a lot of vocabulary. My books also have a lot of animals that are unique animals to Earth, but they're in my fairy realm, and I teach about these fun animals. I teach a lot of facts. Um, these are good things that reading actually produces. And I think reading is so incredibly important for kids. I'm gonna link a video and you can check out a little bit more of why I think reading is important. But for now, I think it's really important to read fantasy, read C.S. Lewis, read, of course, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Tolkien. The Hobbit is great for young kids. Not real young, but middle school is fine. And so I just think it's so fantastic to be able to have good, solid fantasy books out there. I would caution against reading books that have more grim topics. The covers are often really dark, almost black. Now, I believe that we are starting to trend. Not only is it good for us to read more positive stories that have good outcomes and that kind of thing, but I think also the trend is starting to go that way as well. In 2025, they did a study where cozy fantasy was something that people were looking for. So that's pretty exciting, right? I think it's I think the culture is starting to understand that the stories that are gritty and negative and they have questionable um, content, uh, it's not good for our mental health. It's not good for our future. And we want to teach our kids to be the type of people who love life. We want them to be giving and loving. And I think the way to do that is to bring that into um, their their reading, their habits, and their daily lives, even as kids. So, if you are interested in my light fantasy books, you can order The Heroes of the Taduma Forest, book one, already on Amazon, been on Amazon for a year. And the second book, The Secrets of the Stone Castle, it is the second in the series. And if you want to order that, just go to Amazon on October 25th. That's when it comes out. I'm so excited. I think you're going to love it. And anybody who loved the first book is going to absolutely love the second. So comment down below, what kind of fantasy books do you read? What are you interested in for your children or grandchildren? And let's have a dialogue about it. All right, until next time, be brave and write often. Bye.